Thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. Very nice to be here so early in the morning. As you know, I work for the GSM Association, and for those who don't know, that's the global trade association for mobile operators. So we have members, 800 members around the world, but importantly in Europe we represent over 100 operators, and there are more than 600 million subscriber connections. So my focus really is around mobile phones, and there's a huge body of research out there that tells you a load of research on what children are doing on mobile phones. It's called EU Kids Online, and I commend it to anyone who needs any stats. We all know that children all have mobile phones these days. I think it's over 90% in Germany of children have a mobile phone, and 33% of them are using it to access the internet. And GSMA, we do research on children and mobile phones to complement the European research in other countries around the world, like China, Egypt, Chile, all over. And what I've learned from that is more often than not, children act more similarly than they do differently. Although there are cultural differences, they like to text more than they like to call. And equally, parents, we research on parents' worries, and they seem to be the same around the world. How long their children are on the phone for, getting into trouble with messaging, misunderstandings, having access to inappropriate content, and disclosing their own personal information. And all of those concerns, parents' concerns and the other child safety concerns, are concerns that were recognised a long time ago by mobile operators. And it's well accepted that operators have a responsibility to help ensure that children have better and safer mobile and internet experiences. And we've been working on these issues for over 10 years personally. I can count 9 of those on these sorts of issues. One of the first codes of conduct that mobile operators put together was in the UK, and that was in 2004. And back then it was looking at putting in a system of age verification so that adult content accessed via mobiles was not available to minors. And in 2007, the mobile operators pulled together the EU framework for safer mobile for children and younger teenagers. And this has got 83 operator signatories in all of the EU countries. And it covers things like commercial content classification, access control, so being able to give parents the ability to control their children's access to the internet from mobiles, education and awareness raising, which are critical in these areas, particularly towards parents, and fighting illegal content. And this framework was developed with the Commission. We reviewed it 3 times with external parties, and it's been incorporated in operators' everyday activities in Europe. We've complemented it with education and awareness to teachers, in particular, working with SchoolNet through our Teach Today initiative, which we also work with other industry partners outside of the mobile industry. But the reason that we're still here and these dialogues are still so important and will continue to be is because technology never stands still. So the innovation drives new value, but every time it brings new challenges. And for us as mobile operators, the introduction of the smartphone marked this fundamental shift in the industry. So whilst children access the internet today via on a smartphone, this may not even touch the operator's network anymore. They may use it, they may access it through Wi-Fi. They may use GPS services that don't touch operators' cell ID, so location services that operators were able to put some controls around may be completely being bypassed. They may be using messaging such as BBM that doesn't use not text messaging, maybe buying apps from app stores. So in all of these cases, these mechanisms that operators put together into place and put as part of their products and services under the framework of child safety, whilst they're still there and providing connection and protection, they're no longer the only or the main route to content for children and for protection. So we recognised this very early on after, say, the 3rd review of the Safer Mobile framework, and started extending our discussions on these issues to other players out in industry, ISP, handset manufacturers, social networking services, many of the people here in this room. And since 2010, we've been having those dialogues. And this formulated into a more formal grouping in around 2011, when we formed what we call the ICT Coalition for a Safer Internet for Children and Young People. And in January of last year, on the 19th of January last year, we published a set of principles, a joint set of principles, that focus on issues, again, of content, parental controls, dealing with abuse, misuse, illegal content or sexual abuse content, privacy and education and awareness. And 26 of these companies have signed up and pledged to implement against these principles and to ensure that child safety is an integral part of their products and services. So this is operators, but a whole load of other companies, important companies in these. Now, implementation is ongoing and it will be completed by the end of this year, but of course implementation will be different by every company, depending on the services they have, which of those principles they need to implement and how they do it. I'm only speaking for mobile operators, but Andrea Parola, who's here in the room, coordinates the coalition for us. And the principles were carefully designed to be flexible so that they would cover all of the services in ICT industry, and also as part of a dialogue. What we wanted was to have a long-term framework, a roadmap for development that we could use that would cover all aspects of the internet and would remain relevant as new services came again. So we had multi-stakeholder meetings when we developed them to make sure that the principles were understood, and that we also committed to having an ongoing multi-stakeholder forum in the future to get input and feedback from others, whether that's from NGOs, the Commission and others. And this will help us, we know, as new issues arise, because we know they will arise. We have our next multi-stakeholder forum, it's probably going to be in May, and everybody is invited to it. It's an open forum, and anybody here who wants to come is welcome. Finally, a review process, of course, is critical to our work on this. As we said, the implementation should be done by by all of the members of the coalition this year, and these issues were discussed up front with all of our stakeholders, and the review process is being established. So this is not a short-term initiative. It's not a one-off sign a set of principles and go away and implement. It's an issue that we as operators are committed to work hard on in a broader context with wider industry and the other industry players in the coalition equally looking to make child safety part of their daily product and service development. We know that what we're doing needs to be flexible, it needs to be self-regulatory, because it needs to be future-proof, because the services could change again tomorrow, just like that shift that we had to undertake as operators with the introduction of smartphone. It can change again with different social network services we can't even envision. So it needs to be a long-term framework, and it needs to be multi-stakeholder. That's what we've done. We'll make the principles available on the EIF website afterwards, and we're happy to take questions later. So thank you.